8th grade is where I really started bucking up against the system.
Yes, I do remember that. I can kind of recall.
And I was going through something. I think I bucked up against the system because I was kind of angry because I was so different. Even though I tried to fit in, I always wanted to fit in. I always wanted to be accepted.
Okay.
But I was never accepted for one, the way I dressed, because at that time we believed that you had to dress that apart. And sometimes that made me look a little strange. You know, when everybody else was wearing Jordans and all of the fashion, you were sewing my clothes, but that's a whole nother process. But anyhow, I was kind of getting frustrated because I wanted to fit in and I couldn't fit in because there was a call on my life. There was a mark for me to be set apart. And then I didn't understand that. Then the most important thing to me was to fit in, was to be able to conversate with young people and be able to enjoy that stage of childhood. Yeah. But yes, rebelliousness started setting in because I felt like, why can't I do with the other kids? Why can't I spend the night? Why can't I watch with the other kids? Why can't we have cable? Everybody else has cable. Why do we have to watch 3 channels?
Well, I need to kind of say something here. That was during the time when cable was just coming on the scenes and people were getting cable and BET was getting popular, and I was a strict holiness mother, and I believed in watching what goes into your ear gates and eye gates. And so I figured the best way to keep Joy from looking at things that I didn't want her to look at was for me not to have cable during that time. Now, of course, now that will be totally impossible because of the culture. And I do want to say something about the culture. I think that as a church, a minister, or being in ministry in church, I think that one of the biggest challenges I had was to understand what you were going through and the culture of the times, as opposed to what I had gone through when I was your age and the culture of that time. I think that was the challenge that I had as a mother.
Right.
As a mother, period. And then being in ministry, that was a double challenge, right, because I had to try to interpret to you how you were supposed to be in this culture, right, in these times. Right. And I was not equipped for that. I think that's a big piece of this whole situation. So let's move on now and tell me other issues or challenges that you had as a young person in your teenage years.
As I was coming out of the middle school, approaching high school, I had a lot of issues. The issue that I didn't fit in, the issue that I didn't like, I didn't think I was a pretty girl. And then it was about who's cute, you know, who's getting the attention from the boys and things of that nature. And I felt like because I was so different in the way I dressed and because I was so different in the way that my parents believed and because everyone knew that it was about church for me, about God for me, I had a lot of issues with my self-esteem. And it didn't die out. It escalated as I entered into high school. And during that time, that's when the enemy, and then I didn't understand that it was the enemy, but it was the enemy telling me that I wasn't pretty or nobody wants to accept you because of the God piece, you know. So that became an issue for me, because here I'm in school really almost longer than I am in church, and I have to be with these people, I have to be with my peers, and I have to kind of compete with what's going on. I have to try to, like I said, fit in. I'm trying to find my identity. How do I keep my values and my desire, my love for the Lord, and still fit in with my friends, fit in with and compete with the sex piece that's coming up, with the drug piece that's coming up, with the worldly things, which were being glamorized and glorified. And I guess I would really say BET was really the big thing during our time.
It still is.
It is still the big thing, because the youth really based their desires and their wants based off of what they saw different singers or rappers, what they were wearing, what they were doing. And so I was trying to keep up with that. So I became frustrated, very frustrated, because I still would not fit in. Nothing I did, I always was, if I tried to do something wrong, I would always get caught. Or if I was trying to do what somebody else was doing in class, I would always get in trouble. I never could really get away with the things that everybody else was getting away with. So that was frustrating. So I became very frustrated. I was becoming even more stubborn, most of all rebellious, very rebellious.
Amen, amen, amen.
And I really started to dislike my parents, you and Daddy, and church. And I started to dislike you and become angry with God, with the whole piece, with my whole background piece. I became very angry with you because I felt like you all made me different. I felt like you made me different. God made me different. And I didn't want to be different. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to identify. I wanted to have some type of identity. I wanted to be accepted. So I wanted to be like the other popular kids. That was very important to me.
And it still is very important to most children.
Because that's what made me happy at that time.
Right. I understand that.
So I was going through a lot of different emotional ups and downs, and the devil was telling me that I was ugly and that I was not pretty, and I really did not like who I was. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And I cried a lot. Because I got joked a lot. So I was angry with the Lord because I didn't understand why I had to grow up under these type of standards. Why couldn't I just be like the average child? I felt like their parents loved them because their parents let them do whatever they wanted to do.
That is normal.
And I felt like you all didn't love me because y'all put so many restrictions on me. And I really didn't understand it.
I want to interject here that looking back on those days, those are always some challenging days for parents. First of all, I want to say that my husband was definitely a part of the values that we set in the house. But when it came to setting the example as a young woman, I think that Joya, of course, is a child. She looked to me for setting the example of how a woman or a female should carry herself. So I played a big part in that. But also, at looking back on those days and trying to see, because of the challenges that we're going to talk about and because of some of the situations that we're going to talk about, I can see that during those particular days, I was working real hard in the church and doing everything that I thought I should be doing to please God. I think one of the main things that I failed to do was that my concentration was church. Joya told you that, and that was true. And there's nothing wrong with working in church. I'll be the first to tell you I could do it with my eyes closed. But one thing I did not do, I did not concentrate on speaking to her emotional validation. I spoke to her spiritually, and I tried to impart and be an example of what she should be spiritually. But I did not give her certain things that she needed for the times that she was living in, or we were living in.